Hey, it's Pete, and I'm back with another Garbaugust video from Durrës, Albania, because it's always Garbaugust someplace. For this video, I'm going to talk about a sword and sorcery icon. I think he's an icon. I've known about him for a very long time. I don't know if he's in the top rank or not. He's not in the top rank. I would say the top ranked sword and sorcery after Conan, of course, is the first of all time. Robert E. Howard's Conan. I would put Fritz Leiber's Fafford and Grey Mauser a close second. Maybe even, to me, my preference over the years. Who else goes in that category? Definitely Michael Moorcock, Elric, and Coram. Those two characters particularly. But all of Michael Moorcock's fantasy, his entire Eternal Champion saga, at least the ones that are set in medieval worlds. Then we drop down a little bit. There's a lot of people in the 60s and 70s who, during the Conan revival, who were doing their own kind of thing. One that comes to mind is Gardner Fox, who wrote Kothar, and also, what was Gardner Fox's other character? I talked about them last year. I do enjoy those books very much. Gardner Fox, of course, created the Silver Age Flash, created the Justice League, brought back the DC superhero universe in the 60s after it fell out of popularity for a while in the 50s. And he wrote tons and tons of books, and they've all been reissued by his family, because they're not by the usual reissuers like Open Road or anything. You can find a lot of Gardner F. Fox books online. Tons of his spy novels, his kind of Man from U.N.C.L.-ish spy novels and things like that. And I have to cough. Don't know why I'm talking about Gardner F. Fox, because this video is not about him, but about what in my mind was the other great pastiche from the 60s and 70s. I think more towards the 70s, and that was written by a gentleman named John Jakes, and it is Brak the Barbarian. The Adventures of Brak the Barbarian, Volume 1. I read both volumes. His work has been collected by Open Road under two box sets with these just gorgeous, beautiful, so well worked and thought out covers, just doing the bare minimum they can do. Brak has never been really a popular enough character to get really, really nice editions. I've got some other copies here from his others, although, well, I have to take that back, because here's one this is probably from the era of Lancer's Conan books, the ones by Lynn Carter and Elsbreg de Camp, those travesties. This looks very similar, and this is definitely a Frazetta cover. So Brak did get at least a Frazetta cover at one point. This is one of the novels, Brak versus the Sorceress. That's really nice. I had never seen anything like that growing up. The things I saw were like this pocketbook, this sort of tacky monstrosity, Brak versus the Mark of the Demons. This is the second book. I think it's the best book of the series, having read them all this week. Here's, it's probably not worth looking at, but here's some different covers. That's the kind of treatment Brak got. There were no comic adaptations. I believe there was one story adapted in a Marvel comic, in like one of their Barbarian black and white comics. I had thought there was some of the stories had been adapted as Conan stories, but evidently not. Anyway, John Jakes is. Should I talk about him first? Okay, let me talk about him for a minute. When those Brak books were being reissued, John Jakes was a very prolific writer in every genre. He wrote science fiction. He wrote mysteries. He wrote westerns. There's a couple of his other books are in print now from Open Road. One is called Six Gun Planet, so it's probably like a science fiction mystery. A lot of things like that. He came to like world prominence, or at least U.S. prominence, during the bicentennial, 1976. he was hired to do. There was a package distributor created a series called the Kent Family Chronicles. Starting with The Bastard. If you've heard of any of those, it's probably the first one, The Bastard, and the next ones are all called like the Explorers and everything like that. It's a story of America. It's a series of historical novels. They were extremely popular around the bicentennial, and John Jakes became, at least for a while, a household name. And it was, of course, it was a big miniseries, The Bastard, and I think they did the second book too. I forget what the next one's called. Probably The Rebels or something like that. I think it's like 7 books. I think after that, he branched out and wrote some of his own historical series. The most famous one is North and South. I think if he's known today, I'd be surprised if anyone knows in the comments. Of course, I know North and South or whatever, which was also made into a miniseries. It's a Civil War historical novel about 2 friends and who grow up on, guess what, different sides of the war between the states. One is a Union soldier and one is a Confederate soldier. You'd just never guess. But anyway, the very popular miniseries, I think Patrick Swayze was in it. I never saw it. So he's really most known for those big, fat, best-selling historical novels, which is interesting to see him, because he also has this secondary career as of all things, a sword and sorcery novelist, and other kind of things. And he kept writing these right up through the 70s, I think. Hope I have that right. Maybe I should go back to his Wikipedia page. I looked a lot of this up on Wikipedia, of course. Well, screw it. And John Jakes acknowledges in these books, of course, they start out as a complete homage. You can be generous, say homage. You could be cynical and say rip-off, he wrote it because he loved Conan, so he wanted to write his own Conan characters. Most of the books are composed of short stories or long, novelettes, that kind of thing, similar to most of the Conan books. And like I said, I think there's 5 books. With the way they split them up in this thing, it's kind of odd because this one has the title Brak the Barbarian, Mark of the Demons, but there's other stories in there that are just kind of tacked on the end, so they're not exact reissues of the paperbacks, but they do. I believe they contain all the stories. They each contain multiple stories. Brak the Barbarian is a short story collection. Mark of the Demons, I think, is the best of the 5 books. If you want to get Volume 1, it's only $3.99 on Kindle. What am I looking at? Volume 2, which is the same length, actually a little shorter, is $8. I don't know if they figure. I guess they figure if you're still in for the second book, you're willing to pay. But give the first one a shot if you like sword and sorcery. I really don't know how well known Brak is anymore, but they're really fun reads. Brak is in great contrast to Conan. He has blonde hair. In the beginning, that's about the difference. He comes from the north. He's in the decadent south. He comes from the north, the Badlands, the hinterlands, the ice and snow. He's wandering through the south. He's generally more or less headed towards a country which is considered kind of like a paradise on earth, like a golden, Romanesque country of some type. He meets a lot of monsters. I sound like Trump there, he meets a lot of monsters. He fights them all. He's a big, beautiful barbarian, but they're fun to read because they are so, when you just have that jonesing for more Conan kind of stuff. He also has a little bit more of an origin story than Conan. Conan, of course, we know, comes out of the north. We don't know why. We don't know anything about his past. We do know one thing about Brak's past. He was thrown out. He was ejected, banished from his tribe because he questioned the gods. The warlock gods of the north, he thinks are ridiculous for their obsession with war. So he's a bit more, I would say, if Conan's like a complete hard-bitten realist, Brak's a bit of an idealist. And as the stories go on, he becomes more of his own character. There's a story that ends with when Brak's like, there's been enough killing, I'm not doing this anymore, which is not something you would hear Conan say. He becomes involved with a religion in the south. Who are they called? I have to look this up because I don't want to get the name of the religion wrong. It's basically a monotheistic religion where they worship the nameless God. It's kind of a parody of Christianity, and it's more in line with Brak's thinking, although he doesn't really join the religion so much. He goes along his way. He helps people. Mark of the Demons, the one I like the most. He encounters these royal twins, a boy and a girl, a young man, a young woman, who he helps to restore to power. Kind of reminded me of the characters in Game of Thrones, the blonde characters in Game of Thrones. Oh boy, I'm going to get this name wrong too. The Targaryens, Daenerys, and anyway, which could have been an influence on George R.R. Martin. I'm sure George R.R. Martin's very well read in all these genres, so he's probably familiar with Brak the Barbarian. Not that I'm saying he stole it or anything, but it is kind of a similar dynamic. And I'm sure in other things too. I really enjoyed them. I'm glad I read them. They were better written than I thought they were going to be. I had only read one John Jakes book in the past, a long time ago, called Mention My Name at Atlantis, which is meant to be humorous, a humorous fantasy. I thought the humor was really dumb. I can't remember if I finished the book. But these were good. He is not the master stylist that either Howard or Lieber is. There isn't the intensity of, when you read Fafhrd and Grey Mouser, the Lieber stories, you have this really vibrant sense of the world around them. The city of Lankmar and the places they go, the people. Really evocative, but Fritz Leiber is probably one of the greatest stylists of the 20th century, even though his reputation's always going to be pushed down a little bit because he wrote genre books, but I think he's as good as anybody who wrote in the 20th century. And he wrote some bad books too because he had a hard time making a living, so he occasionally would pump some stuff out. And the same with Howard. Just beautifully written. The world of the Hyborian Age and Conan's world is like so beautifully and evocatively evocatively evoked, I guess I have to say now. Just feels like a real full rich world, and you don't get quite that same sense from the Brak books. You get the sense that they're in Fantasyland more or less, but you don't have the dense richness of the descriptions of a Leiber or of a Howard at their best. That's the only thing, though. If you like sword and sorcery, you gotta lap these up. I think they're better than what's going on now. There's some good stuff out there now, I think, but these are action packed and interesting creatures and fun adventures. I give them 2 thumbs up, and that'll be it. That's Brak the Barbarian, all 4 books. I highly recommend, and I will talk to you soon.